both your regular election and runoff elections. With that, I want to say your vote matters. I hope that you enjoyed today's mayoral forum. If you have any questions for the candidates, as we've already told you, there are index cards and pins on your table, and we will have volunteers picking those up. Now, I am pleased to bring to the stage Ismael Herrera, who is the ARP Texas Associate State Director, who is in charge of all things San Antonio. He will be introducing our moderator. Thank you and enjoy the forum.
Thank you, Lisa. As mentioned, I do all things ARP Texas San Antonio. So if you are interested at all in becoming more involved with ARP, more involved with our volunteers, our community, please feel free to stop me or one of our many volunteers with the red shirt that tell you all about what we do here in San Antonio. Next, I am glad to introduce our moderator, who will lead today's forum. Gina is a metropolitanist for the San Antonio Express News and host of Nosotros with Gina. Elaine is a San Antonio native who grew up on the west side where she still lives. She's the past president of the San Antonio Association of Hispanic Journalists, the Austin Area Association of Hispanic Journalists, the El Paso Association of Hispanic Journalists, and served on the board of the National Association of Hispanic Journalists. Ayala is the recipient of the Henry Guerra Lifetime Achievement Award for Excellence in Journalism, the Philip True Award for Reporter of the Year given by her peers at the Express News, the inaugural Mission Heritage Award for the American Indians in Texas at the Spanish Colonial Missions, the San Antonio Hispanic Chamber of Commerce inaugural Community Voice Award, the Governor's Yellow Rose of Texas Award, and awards from the Martinez Street Women's Center and Image San Antonio. Her most recent recognition came from the legendary Snake Pick Society of San Antonio's West Side. She's been induced into this Edgewood Independent School District Hall of Fame, San Antonio Women's Hall of Fame, and the National Associations of Hispanic Journalists Hall of Fame. So please welcome Elaine Ayala.
Hello, it's so nice to be in the presence of fellow older adults. Good morning to everyone here at the Whitman Center and those at home live streaming. Thanks for joining us in this forum. It is presented by GA Media and sponsored by AARP Texas in San Antonio. Before the rules of the forum, we ask that audience members be respectful and remain quiet during responses, and refrain from interrupting and hold their applause or other reactions until the end of each segment. A coin toss that you saw has determined who will get to introduce themselves first. That was Gina Ortiz Jones. Thereafter, the candidates will alternate answering questions first. So here we go with their 2-minute introductions, beginning with Gina Ortiz Jones.
Good morning. Thank you all for making the time to be with us today. Thank you to our very generous host, AARP. Thanks, Elaine, for moderating today. I was proud to spend some time with many of you working the crowd and hearing some of the things that are top of mind for you. And frankly, many of those are things that my mom and I talk about. My mom is a proud retired teacher, part of the 25 years, altogether 40 years though. Our family story, though, really starts over 40 years ago when my mom came to this very special country. My mom graduated from the #1 university in the Philippines. She came here, though, as a domestic helper, and she wanted a chance at the American dream. And she reminded my sister and I every single day that we were lucky, not smart, we were very lucky to have been born in this very special country, and we'd have to give back. That's why I was honored to serve in the Air Force in a number of ways. That's why my sister is proud of me. As is why my sister proudly serves in the Navy, and so it was nice to meet many of my fellow veterans in this room. My entire career in public service has also shown me, though, that true national security, it starts at home. It starts with smart, healthy kids. It starts with elected officials understanding to whom they are accountable. And it starts certainly with much more transparency around how some of the public dollars are being spent in our community. I think it's also my time in my service has also always shown me you need a plan, right? You need a plan when you're going to lead. So please, on my website, GinaOrtizJones.com, I've outlined the things that I look forward to working on to make sure we are bringing down costs where we can, keeping people safe, making sure we're making smart investments where we must, and again, bringing more transparency to how these city dollars are being spent. I'm, again, very thankful for the time to be with you today.
Good morning, buenos dias. As a proud member of AARP, I'm glad to be here today with you. And I'm so happy to be here at Albany. This is where I would bring my family to church. That outdoor Mass is my favorite Mass of all time. Being able to celebrate Mass in the outdoors has been just a wonderful tradition for my family, so I'm glad to be here. So, I came here in 1985. I was born in Mexico. My parents brought us here to seek a better life, to seek an education. I arrived here, I went to St. Mary's University for undergrad. I also went to UTSA and I got an MBA there, back to St. Mary's for law school. My parents brought us here so we can get an education, and I'm glad to say we didn't let them down. San Antonio has been home. This is where I met my wife. I put myself through college working in restaurants. I actually met her waiting tables. I fell in love with her, sat her in my section. I couldn't resist. But Laura and I have built a beautiful family. We have 4 remarkable children. They've all gotten public school education. Laura is now a retired orthodontist, but she's gone to education. She's now a public school teacher at Health Careers High School, teaching dentistry to very bright minds. A STEM teacher and a mother. I couldn't ask for anything better. I've worked in government, and I'm also a small business owner. I've worked in economic development. I've created jobs. And I want to do that for San Antonio. Let me tell you what breaks my heart. 60 years of 18% poverty rate in this community is heartbreaking. We can't have it. We have to be able to once and for all start tackling our poverty situation. And the only way we're going to do it is through aggressive economic development and job creation, through quality education, and most importantly, through fiscal responsibility. So I'm committed to working with you, with your community, and I love the fact that you include our family in the title of this event, because as grown adult children, now it's our responsibility to take care of our parents. Thank you.
Each candidate has 1 minute to respond to each of the questions presented. Should a candidate mention the other candidate by name or in any other form, the other candidate will get 30 seconds to respond, thanks to our timekeeper sitting up front. While some questions were prepared, most were submitted by the audience prior to this forum and during, and also from home who are live streaming this event. So here we go. And I'm going to start with the audience. And it goes to the audience this time. Although the city has policies and issues of its own, how would you work with Blair County and surrounding areas to deal with expanding growth and the problems with congestion, traffic, crime, and other?
Thank you for that. I think relationships with other governments is extremely important. We have to be able to collaborate. And all the issues we're seeing as a growing city impact both the city, the county, and the state. So we have to have those relationships. We have to be able to work with them so that we can collaborate. One area of opportunity I see is in combined purchasing power. We have the city, the county, CPS, SOS, everybody doing their own purchasing. And I think what we need to do is we need to find efficiencies in our purchasing. We can save a lot of money if we come together. Also, we have redundancies. What's the purpose of having 2 library districts, park districts, police, all these things that are redundant? I think we need to take a look at it. We need to work together. We need to collaborate across governments to be able to make your lives better. Thank you.
I I think one of the areas, just this morning I spent with Toyota, and the number of thousands of employees that are there. It's a great resource for our community, and they talk all about their infrastructure needs. And I think that's an excellent way in which we can work together to make sure, supply coming in from Houston or from Dallas, that we've got the infrastructure, especially also as that new hospital comes online. I think though also in this time, as mayor, I would also be working with the judge to be very clear, both with federal and with state leaders, about the impacts of their decisions on my fellow veterans. When they are defunding the VA, when they are firing veterans who happen to also work at the VA, that means my fellow veterans are not getting seen. I get my own care at Audi, and I know it's important that we protect those things. So if we're Military City USA, you bet, as your mayor, as an Iraq War veteran, I would be working with the judge to say, hey, this is how we're being impacted. We need to make sure we protect and serve our veterans, and I will do that.
If any time during this forum you cannot hear any of us, just raise your hands wherever you are so our audio tech people can acknowledge that, okay? This question will go to Gina Ortiz Jones first. What is your plan to reduce food deserts and improve access to fresh, healthy food in low-income neighborhoods?
My own church actually is on the far east side, Santo Niño de Seguro. It's the first and only Filipino Catholic church in North America. But driving down Rigsby, once you exit 35, I believe it is, you see very clearly how difficult it is to be able to access some of those resources. So I want to work with some of our, certainly our local well-known partners, but others that might be interested in solving this to make sure that all communities have access to those basic resources. I think it's also really important, and I would do this as your mayor, is make sure we are protecting those senior centers. I've been to the senior center, Walker Ranch up north. I was there during January, and it just happened to be their birthday celebration. 200 some odd meals they served, and they said those meals were gone in 15 minutes. So when we think about these fresh food options, we have to think about the critical way, the role that the city plays in providing those, and I would protect that.
So this is certainly an issue for our community. I think the best way of doing it is incentivizing small businesses to open up retail outlets that will help and be accessible to everybody in these communities. I've also met with our U.S. Secretary of Agriculture, Brooke Rollins. I've already sat down with her. We've talked about what is it that we can do as a community to collaborate with our federal government, to work with places like HEB, our food bank, so that we can have ample food supply, affordable food supply for our community. Senior centers are extremely important. We have to make sure we prioritize them. We have to make sure that they have the food that is needed. But at the same time, when we're not incentivizing retail outlets to go into these places, then we're not going to be able to get these food deserts out of the way. So I want to be able to work with small businesses and give them the incentives they need to be able to set up shop.
On the next question, how do you plan to address the rising cost of living in San Antonio, especially for older adults on fixed incomes?
Well, we certainly have a national issue with inflation, and I look forward to working with our federal government, our state government, to making sure that we can bring quality jobs to this community. I think part of the problem is that we have depressed wages. You know, we have seniors working that aren't making what they deserve. So I think one of the best ways of facilitating affordability is to increase the wages. And I've been in economic development for 25 years. I have brought investment opportunities to our communities, and I want to do that here. I think that as we tackle this inflation issue, we also have to make sure we tackle our property tax issue. I've issued a property tax protection plan that will also help with home affordability. But if we don't get our wages up, if we don't help our seniors with getting quality jobs and pay quality paychecks, then we're not going to get anywhere. Thank you.
When we think about, again, people being able to not only just live but thrive in our community, it certainly starts with a living wage. I'm very proudly endorsed by several unions because they know that when I think of economic development, I'm going to think about that person's ability to sustain themselves, but also that person's ability to sustain their families, right? So working with the companies that we're attracting here, including incentives, certainly, but also making sure they're paying our folks a living wage. I think when it comes to property taxes, one of the things I'm very concerned about is going to be the impact of this voucher scam. That was unfortunately passed at the state level. I see many people nodding, and I've met many retired teachers here. As we have seen in other states, the impact of that, we've seen property taxes rise as a result of that scam. I would work very closely with our superintendents to understand how are we understanding the impact on our students, but also how are we as a community going to be able to mitigate some of the economic impacts of this, because you're right. Folks in particular on fixed income are going to be most hurt by these increases in property taxes.
The next question goes to you next. First, what measures will you take to ensure that essential services like electricity, water, and internet remain affordable for older adults?
Look, I mean, I was raised right. I know that we've got to take care. Show me how you treat the most vulnerable, and I will show you your character. So when we're thinking about our utilities, we've got to think, yes, about helping the businesses, but also make sure that those are affordable for folks. Rolando Pablos served as a utility commissioner, and on that commission, he voted to increase from 3,000 to 9,000 the electric cap. During Storm Uri, as a result of that vote, you saw people experiencing $16,000 utility costs. Texas AARP actually said when they were about to take that vote, hey, don't do that because it's not clear, you don't know how that's going to impact the most vulnerable and in particular seniors. And he still voted that way. Based on the storm, you had people have a $16,000 utility bill, and then the utility commission after that brought that down from 9,000 that he voted to increase it to down to 5,000 because it was so harmful for our seniors.
I think that answers the question as to how we're going to reduce your electric bills. And look, I'm not going to engage in political attacks here. I respect you way too much. So let me tell you what I plan to do. What we're having here is we're having a situation where our city's growing and our utilities aren't able to catch up. On the south side, we're wasting 20 billion gallons of water a year. That is an environmental crisis. And we're not going to be able to fix that unless we bring in funds for that. And we can't do that through raising your rates. CPS Energy has already announced they're going to continue to raise rates because we have a shortage in transmission costs. So as someone who does have utility experience, I want to go in there and I want to look for efficiencies so that we can help reduce those costs, find alternate ways of producing electricity so that the savings get passed on to you.
Because your opponent mentioned you in those times, but can you get an extra 30 seconds?
Well, thank you. Again, look, I'm running for mayor because I want to work with you. Okay, I've been part of this community for 40 years. I don't fly in from Washington every time there's an election. I have lived here. This is my community. I have volunteered in this community in every which way possible. So I want to make sure that you understand who you're going to elect here. I have lived here. Gina has chosen to live her entire adult career in Washington, D.C. So this is where my interest lies.
May I respond?
He did not mention you. So
Yes, ma'am, he did. He said Gina. He just called
Okay.
Yeah. So I hope Texas AARP provides you all with exactly the information they shared with Rolando when they told him not to take that vote. I'm proud of my time in public service. I will never apologize for serving our country. Air Force veteran, Iraq War veteran, absolutely not. As the Undersecretary of the Air Force, I managed a $173 billion budget. I led 600,000 folks. And I look forward to bringing that service and leadership and service to Military City, USA.
Okay, Mr. Pablos, you get the next question first. Here it is. Describe initiatives that will help older adults remain in their homes and avoid displacement. Describe initiatives.
So I have issued my taxpayer protection blueprint, and that includes a taxpayer timeout. It's a no new revenue tax rate that the city council can take. The city of Fort Worth has done it. And basically what it says that the city manager cannot budget for the anticipated increase in taxes so that he can take that money and use it. What it says is that the taxes as they are today will be frozen. We will have a timeout. And it's done. It's been done. We can do it here. We just need to be able to live within our means. And what's happening right now is that we continue to increase our budget based on anticipated tax revenue that is really on your backs. So I want to be able to freeze the tax rate as it is today, and then get a few years of tax breaks so that we can get our budget in order. Because right now, as you know, we're spending way more than we're taking in.
In terms of bringing down costs for our seniors, I think this is again where we can work with both our state delegation as well as the federal delegation and really speak with one voice as a community about the impacts of some of these cuts. There's no reason folks should be looking at their Social Security check and wondering, is it going to come? And so when the state says, hey, we're going to have a Texas-style Doge, I cringe at that. Because with that federal level, when they've done that, who are they talking about? They're talking about Social Security checks, right? They're talking about, again, all the very important services that many people on fixed income need, as well as defunding of things like the VA and the other services that are also so critical to your day-to-day. I think it's important that we are speaking up, talking about the impacts of these things. And yes, as we look at the budget, making smart investments to bring down costs where we can, but also make smart investments.
Okay. Mr. Jones will go first at the next question. Taking into consideration that this senior demographic is growing exponentially, what do you see as the top 3 areas that you'll need to focus on to serve them?
I think as a veteran and somebody who's worked in national security, I know a leader's #1 job is to keep our people safe. And so I've sat down both with all of our first responders, the unions that represent them, and I sat down with fire, and they said, 80% of the things that the fire department responds to are healthcare related, right? So as you point out, as our community is aging, we want to make sure that we are best addressing those needs. I think it's also really important, again, that we protect those programs that are critical for our seniors, especially seniors that are living alone. We know the importance of those programs that help with cognitive abilities and to protect those. I think it's also really important that we are thinking about mobility for our aging population, as well as the public safety as it relates to even thinking about the impact of a really well-resourced but well-run animal control service. I mean, many folks that don't feel comfortable walking in the neighborhood because of that. I think it really comes down to making people feel safe, but also making sure that we're speaking with one voice about the impacts to our aging population.
I would focus on safety, finances, and services. We have to make sure that our community is safe. And right now, we have a lot of problems with crime. I'm proud to say that I've been endorsed by the San Antonio Police Officers Association. We have to make sure that we keep funding available for police and fire. We cannot defund them. If anything, I will look to bring up that funding, because here's the problem. We are short-staffed. And we cannot provide safety for you if we're short-staffed. With finances, I want to make sure that everybody here who needs to work can have good work. And most importantly, look, I think we're at a point in our lives where caretakers are very important. And we have to make sure that we can have caretakers that our seniors can afford. So I'll be working with our senior community to make sure that we have a caretaker program, because you know what? That is a reality that we're facing today.
who will take this next question first. What makes you the best person for San Antonio's growth and mayoral office?
Well, thank you. Like I said, I've been here for 40 years. I've been part of this community. I've volunteered in many organizations. I've helped with homelessness. I've been a mentor in high schools. I've taught at the university level. I've worked with small business. This is my community. And I believe that in order to be a good leader, you have to know your community. You have to live here. You have to understand the ins and outs. So I think that one thing is being part of this community and also experience. You know, experience in government, experience in business. I am a small business owner. I understand small business. I've worked in corporate America. I've also worked in economic development. I know what it's like to need to bring in investment. I've created thousands of jobs, brought in billions of dollars worth of investment to this beautiful state, and I'm ready to do it for San Antonio.
As the Undersecretary of the Air Force, I managed a $173 billion budget and led 600,000 folks. So I look forward to bringing that service and leadership and service to our community. I'm also very proud of my record of delivering and making sure our airmen and guardians and folks could serve to their full potential. So my record in public service is about helping people serve to their full potential. One of the things I'm most proud of is I work to bring back the citizenship program out at Lackland Air Force Base for our young recruits. So as they're going through that, serving our country, they can also earn their citizenship. My opponent's record of public service is getting sued by the League of Women Voters and the NAACP for engaging in activities that could lead to voter intimidation, right? So let's be clear about our record. My concern with that as well is that when the Trump Voter Commission asked for that information, they said, hey, we really are interested in those voters whose last names are Hispanic. So let's be clear about who people understand they are accountable to, and Rolando has shown time and time again he's going to be accountable to Greg Abbott. I'll be accountable to San Antonio.
It's hard to believe that Gina would be accountable to San Antonio, given that she's taking $13 million from Washington, D.C. every time she runs for office. So who is she accountable for? Where did you get that money, Gina? Why is Washington, D.C. so interested in funding you? 90% of her funding today is coming from outside the state. I'm from here. This is my city. I'm not a D.C. outsider wanting to come in here, and that's what she does every time. There's a time for run for office, she comes in here. But the rest of the time, she lives in D.C.
No, some of that, I've been in Iraq, right? I've been in Germany. I've been at Fort Leavenworth studying. I've been serving our country, and I am proud of that. Again, Rolando doesn't want to talk about his record because it involves hurting people. Look at who is funding him. Look at all that money. And you know why you know who Greg Abbott supports? Why are we even talking about the voucher scam? Because Greg Abbott got all those Republicans who wouldn't support him, he got them kicked out of office. And now they've got new people. You think this guy's going to bend the knee? I don't think so. I don't think he will bend the knee. He's not going to stand up for our community.
Okay, I got a little mixed up there, so I think Rolando goes next. Is that correct? Just keeping score. Okay, I think Rolando goes next first. Here's the question. How do you plan to partner with hospitals, nonprofits, and schools to address the root causes of health disparities in San Antonio?
So like I said earlier, poverty is our biggest problem. It's a root condition that drives all these issues that we have today, like public health problems, like neighborhood blight, homelessness, crime. So we have to be able to address the root cause, which is poverty. And I've already talked about how I plan to do it. I have a plan that involves aggressive economic development, that involves quality education and fiscal responsibility. And let me tell you what, I'll give you one example. Haven for Hope lost $2 million worth of funding from New Star Energy when they left. Philanthropy is extremely important in this community. And if we keep losing these companies, if they keep moving away, we're going to hurt ourselves. The city only has so much money. That's the other thing, is how are we going to bring in new revenue for the city so that we can help these organizations. So I want to be able to cooperate, work with them, but we also have to be real about where we're going to get the money, and I have a plan.
Healthcare is such a critical part of our economy. And for depending on where you live in the city, you know that it is not equitable. It's not always easy to get some of that specialty. And I'm also very concerned about folks that have to go to Houston to get very specialized medical care because it's not in our community. I would prioritize access to quality health care because, again, it's important not only for our needs today, but also, yes, when corporations are looking about where they're going to go, they want to make sure that their people are going to be able to be healthy. So when I think about economic development, I want to make sure we've got enough doctors of all types to ensure that they're meeting the needs in our community. I would make sure that we are protecting Metro Health. I'm very concerned when the state says, hey, we don't want to collect certain kinds of information about reproductive health, for example, and the consequences of some of those laws that they've passed, which ultimately affect our community when it means that women aren't getting health care, kids aren't getting their needs, etc. And you're right, I would absolutely also advocate to make sure we expand Medicaid. It is so important that we do that already.
I am mixed up. Okay. Mr. Pablos, are you going to answer that question? Is that correct? Okay, you've answered. Okay. Mr. Pablos, you get the next question. Project Marvel. It's a proposed multi-billion-dollar sports and internet and entertainment district in downtown San Antonio. Where does it fit in your agenda? Do you support it? And how does it complement your vision of San Antonio, if at all?
So I'm very concerned about using taxpayer money for this project, but I'm also concerned about losing the Spurs. There's a story of the city of Seattle that refused to help and work with their team to fund a public project like that, and they lost the team. Went to Oklahoma City. The city of San Antonio has the Spurs, and it has a $500 million economic impact in the city. So this is a business decision that we have to make. We have to look at the impact that it has on our city and the cost to our city. My job as mayor will be to create the condition to bring in investment from outside to fund this. I've also talked about using visitor tax money, if need be, to be able to fund it. That's the public-private partnership model that is used around the country, and that's something we need to look at. But look, we don't know anything about this project because it's been kept from us. And I will not allow for this project to be kept from the community. It's got to be transparent, and we can't be doing it with non-disclosure agreements.
We need answers to 3 very basic questions. 1, how much is it going to cost? 2, who is paying for it? And 3, what is the benefit to the community? Until we get answers to those questions, we shouldn't necessarily be talking about funding. That's where I stand. Rolando Pablos, regardless of what he just said right now, when the San Antonio Express News asked him, and I've got the survey, roughly speaking, what is the appropriate level of city funding, not from the general fund, for a potential arena? He said 50%. So I just told you the data that we're missing, and he's already negotiated 50%. I don't think that makes sense. I don't think that's fiscally conservative. I think we've got to make sure we got a good deal for San Antonio. The track record on these are not great. The Alamo Dome, we're supposed to get an NFL team, right? The Browns are cool, that's not an NFL team, right? Same thing with AT&T Center. So we need a good deal. Rolando's gonna sell us out on this, and I think we need to have the data.
All right, can you take the next question?
I want to respond to that, Rolando.
Okay, he's chosen not to respond. But Gina, you take the next question. You take the next question first. How important to you is hearing and considering multiple points of view, even when you feel sure you're right? This is the first one.
I think it's very important. I always say, look, if I'm the smartest person in the room, I don't want to be in that room. I'll be honest with you. And my entire career has been in public service, largely in the intelligence community, and it was always to consider lots and lots of things. One of my most formative experiences, I went to Boston University on an ROTC scholarship, but I had to sign a piece of paper that said I will not engage in homosexual behavior because don't ask, don't tell was the policy at that time. And I knew what that meant. My opportunity to serve our country, die for our country, all that goes away. Just because they didn't have enough leaders at the time to say anybody ready and willing should be able to. That experience also always showed me, always reminded me, when you're in charge, always ask, who am I not hearing from, and why am I not hearing from them? I would argue, go 10, 15 miles either direction from here. It changes very quickly, right? And that's because we're either not listening to folks or not accounting for their considerations. I would be a mayor that does that.
Well, the most important thing in leadership is communication. We have to make sure that as leaders, we keep our community informed. And Gina has chosen to hide behind the media here. She does not want to speak to the media. And I don't think that that is a way a leader should behave. She is a person who has been able to come into town and run for office and not be held accountable for the fact that she really hasn't lived here. I want to make sure that everybody in this community is well informed, and I promise I will communicate with you. I've already committed to having regular press conferences that communicate with you, that share with you what our plans are. And look, let me tell you, we cannot afford to have someone who is going to hide from the media, because then that gives you a disservice.
I think if you're actually able to go check the records, my attendance at public forums is actually the best. And I've engaged with the press routinely and have shared that when I am in office, I commit to an in-person, every month town hall. I think it's important to see folks eye to eye, answer their questions, and certainly those would be open to the press, just like I am here right now, open to you all. So that's how I have been, that's how I will continue to be.
Every year, the amount of money lost by Americans to fraud increases. Older adults and veterans are disproportionately victimized by fraudsters. What can the city of San Antonio do to protect its citizens from fraud and scams?
That is certainly a big issue. It's happened in our family. My mother-in-law has been victimized many times. We've had to work with her bank to make sure that when she picks up that phone, that she doesn't have the ability to send payments to these places overseas. But look, I think this is an issue of enforcement, but it's also, we have to make sure that our district attorney looks at these items. And look, I can't control what the district attorney does, but I can certainly speak on your behalf. We have to make sure that not only our police get involved, sometimes the FBI gets involved. I work with our federal officials, but it's really, how is it that these individuals are perpetrating these crimes on our seniors? How are we punishing them? There are no repercussions right now. So we have to be able to work with law enforcement to make sure that this is happening. And I will work with our state and federal officials to make sure that nobody can reach out to our seniors and abuse them the way they're being abused today.
As a veteran and somebody that's worked largely in national security, I know how important this issue is. And that's why I'm also very proudly endorsed by Sheriff Javier Salazar in my campaign. I'm proud of the way in which he keeps people safe, but also does so with compassion. I think this is an excellent opportunity for us to work with both our state and our federal partners to understand this. I know this is unfortunately an area that is increasing over and over, and unfortunately, because it's at times kind of small amounts of money, they don't pay attention to it. But as just pointed out by the statistics, in the aggregate, this is something that is so terrible and really wipes people out. So I would look to opportunities to work, again, collaborate with folks at the state and at the federal level. And this is an area where we need to do more. And I think, the exciting AI and cyber campus that we've got downtown, this is an area where maybe we can also work with our local universities and be innovators in this to address this in our community.
Okay, Gina, you take this question first next. Oh, where are we at closing statements? No! I want to have...
Late, that's why.
Okay, all right, here we go. I thought we had 2 more minutes, but I guess not. All right. All right, we're at closing statements. Each candidate will get 2 minutes each. Gina.
Well, thank you again to our very generous host, AARP. Thank you, Elaine. Thank you all for making time. Thanks for, as I was walking around, thanks to each of you for sharing your concerns about our city and the direction. I think it's really important as we move forward as a city that we have a mayor that is going to be focused on everybody. And I look forward to being a mayor that unites us, that moves us forward, and that considers all parts of our city, right? Again, it is a very special country, a very special community where somebody can go from Title I public education on the far west side to Undersecretary of the Air Force. But that's only because of the way in which San Antonio invested in me, allowed me to grow up healthy, get an education, and serve our country. I look forward to bringing my record of delivering results, knocking down barriers for folks, and making sure our city is well led. Please, I invite you to go to my website, GinaOrtizJones.com. Look at those kinds of things that I want to do in the first 100 days. Many of the challenges that we have they would be the same even if we had a different president or different governor. And again, my time in leadership has always shown you've got to have a plan, you've got to lead with everybody in mind. So that plan is designed to bring down costs where we can, make smart investments where we must, as well as make sure we've got much more transparency around how these public dollars are spent. And I would just foot stomp, please, Texas AARP, share the information with your members about the information you shared with Rolando Pablos when he voted to increase utility rates, right? When he also shared about what he did, maybe you can look this up yourselves, but again, the lawsuit by the League of Women Voters, as well as the NAACP. We have to have somebody that is going to fight for San Antonio, all aspects of our rights as citizens. I would do that as your next mayor, and I'd be honored to have your vote.
Thank you, everyone. I'm honored to be here. Look, our best days are ahead of us. I want to be able to restore the province of San Antonio. I want every family to thrive. I want this city to be prosperous. And the only way we're going to do that is if we come together. We can't go into City Hall and fight each other. We have to come together. We have to once and for all bring this community together. We're balkanized. We have 10 districts at City Hall. We have 17 school districts. You know, how can we get anything done when we're not coming together? Let me tell you, I didn't come here to throw bombs. I came here to speak to you about what my plan is. And my plan is to take San Antonio to the next level. Continuous improvement. We're Toyota City. Kaizen, let's take what we have today and let's make it better. And the only way we're going to do that is if we come together. Yes, it's important to go and represent you and to fight for you, but we can't fight with each other. Because if we continue to fight with each other, we're going to continue to be a city with 18% poverty, where we haven't been able to get ahead, and the other cities in Texas are beating us. They're beating us to jobs, they're taking companies from us, and they're taking our children and grandchildren with us. We have a tremendous brain drain. We can't do that. And look, like I said, I'm not going to go in and throw bombs and make accusations that are unfounded. I'm here to speak to you, to make sure that you understand that I'm from San Antonio. I just want to retire here. I'm not using this as a stepping stone to something else. I want my children to come back here. I want this community to thrive, because this community welcomed me 40 years ago, and I'm ready to give back. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
That's it. My thanks to AARP Texas and GA Media, and most of all to all of you. The runoff election to determine our next mayor and several council representatives is Saturday, June 7th. Let's vote. Let's dance, let's vote.
they ask you questions. They got in late. A lot of